I stared at my phone, unable to believe my eyes. The text message blinked back at me, repeating, "They're sleeping anyway, don't be such a worrywart. The wedding's only a few hours." My hands shook in a mix of fury and fear as I dialed my mother-in-law's number again for the 5th time. Voicemail, of course. I'm Olivia, 32, and never in a million years did I think I'd rush home from a work emergency to find my mother-in-law had ditched my toddlers to go to a wedding. That morning, when I called her begging for help because my usual sitter was sick, and I had to deal with a massive product recall at the pharmaceutical company where I worked, she acted like I was inconveniencing her. "Fine, I'll watch them," she said with a sigh, but only because James would be upset if I didn't. James, my husband, had been gone at a medical conference in Boston for 3 days. Patricia had made it abundantly clear that she blamed me for his career pulling him away from home. Now, stuck in traffic, I dialed my neighbor Margaret. "Can you check on the kids? My mother-in-law was supposed to be watching them, but she just texted that she left for a wedding." "What?" Margaret's voice crackled with disbelief. "I'm on my way. I've got your spare key from when you were away." The next 10 minutes stretched out like a lifetime. Finally, Margaret called me back. "Olivia, I'm with Emma and Lucas. They're fine, just watching TV, but they're alone, no food, nothing for them to eat. How soon can you get here?" "About 20 minutes, I said, my voice thick with a mix of relief and anger. "Please stay with them. I'll pay you whatever you want." "Don't even think about it," Margaret cut me off. "Just get home safely, and Olivia, you need to do something about this. It's not right." She was right. This wasn't the first time Patricia had blatantly disregarded my children's safety. Last month, she forgot about Lucas's peanut allergy and almost fed him a peanut butter sandwich. When I freaked out, she acted like I was the crazy one. The month before, she let Emma play outside unsupervised, and my neighbor had to chase her down when she wandered too close to the street. When I finally got home, I found Emma and Lucas curled up with Margaret on the couch, watching cartoons. Emma, my 4-year-old, jumped up when she saw me. "Mom, Grandma said we were bad, so she had to go to a party." My heart dropped. Lucas, just 3, nodded solemnly. "We tried to be good, Mommy." I hugged them tight, breathing in their familiar scent. "You weren't bad at all, sweethearts. Grandma was wrong to leave you alone, so wrong." After getting them fed and tucked in bed, I sat at my kitchen table, laptop open, methodically logging everything: Patricia's texts, the timestamps of my calls, Margaret's statement about finding the kids alone. Years in pharmaceutical compliance had taught me the importance of documentation. My phone buzzed again, another text from Patricia. "Wedding was great. The bride looked amazing. Don't wait up. Off to the after party now. Kids are probably asleep anyway. ELO." I screenshot the message and added it to my growing file. Then, I made 2 calls, one to my lawyer, Sarah Chin, and one to the non-emergency police line to file a report for child abandonment. The dispatcher was professional but kind as she took down the details. Around midnight, I heard a car pull up. Through the window, I saw Patricia stumbling slightly as she walked up the path, still in her party dress and heels. She tried her key in the lock, but I'd engaged the deadbolt. I opened the door and stood in the frame, facing her. Patricia's flushed face and wilted hair were clear signs she'd been drinking. "Oh, you're still up. The wedding was great. You should have seen. Your key won't work anymore," I said calmly, "and you won't be watching my children again, ever." She blinked, clearly caught off guard by my calmness. "Don't be ridiculous, Olivia, they were fine. You're always so overprotective. You left a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old alone for hours," I interrupted, my voice steady. "No food, no supervision. After telling them they were bad, do you have any idea what could have happened?" "They were sleeping," she retorted, her voice rising. "You're overreacting. Wait until James hears about how you're treating me." "Oh, James will hear about it," I assured her. "He'll hear about everything, including the police report I just filed." Her face drained of color. "A police report? You didn't." "I did," I said, stepping back to close the door. "And that's just the beginning. You should get a lawyer. Patricia, you're going to need one." "You can't do this," she shrieked, her voice much sharper now. "They're my grandchildren." "They're my children," I corrected her firmly. "And you left them alone to go party. Actions have consequences. You'll be learning that soon." I shut the door, engaging both locks. Through the door, I could hear her protests, but I didn't respond. I went to check on my sleeping children, watching their peaceful faces, their breathing soothing my racing heart. My phone buzzed again, a text from James. Just finished the conference. Everything okay at home? I took a deep breath and typed, we need to talk. Your mother left Emma and Lucas alone for hours to go to a wedding. Call me when you can. Then, I returned to documenting everything while waiting for the difficult conversation that awaited me. Patricia had no idea what she'd started, but she was about to find out. No one, not even family, could endanger my children and get away with it. James called at 6 a.m. The next morning. I hadn't slept much, spending most of the night gathering evidence and emailing my lawyer. This has to be a misunderstanding, James said, his voice tight with disbelief. Mom would never. Check your email, I interrupted. I sent you everything, the texts, the police report, statements from Margaret. She left our kids alone, James, for a wedding she never mentioned attending. There was a long pause. I could hear him clicking through the files. Then, his tone shifted. She told them they were bad and went to an after party. Keep reading, I said quietly. Another pause. The police report. Olivia, did you have to go that far? He asked, a touch of hurt in his voice. She's my mother. And there are children, I said firmly. What if there had been a fire? What if Lucas had an allergic reaction? What if someone had broken in? I heard him take a sharp breath. Finally, he said, I'm catching the next flight home. True to his word, James arrived 6 hours later, exhausted. The kids rushed to him, and I saw him hold them a little tighter than usual, no doubt imagining what could have happened. We barely had time to settle them for lunch before Patricia stormed in, bursting through the front door without knocking. James, thank goodness you're home. You won't believe what Olivia is doing. Stop, James said firmly, his voice sharper than I'd ever heard. I've seen everything, Mom, the texts, the police report. How could you leave them alone? Patricia crumpled into an exaggerated sob. They were sleeping. I only went because Diane begged me to come to her wedding. I've been friends with her for 30 years. And now Olivia is trying to turn you against me with the truth. James cut her off. You abandoned my children and then went to an after party instead of coming back to check on them. I knew they'd be fine, Patricia protested. You've become such a helicopter parent since marrying her, James muttered, his face pale with frustration. When you were younger, I left you alone so much, Patria said, looking back. Hold on, James snapped, his anger was intense, something I had never seen before. Are you seriously admitting you did this to me too? Patria quickly realized her blunder and tried to correct herself. No, that's not what I meant. Things were different back then, but these kids today are way too coddled. Leave, James said coldly, and don't come back until we contact you. Once she left, James sank onto the couch, his hands buried in his hair. I had no clue, he muttered. All those times I thought I was learning to be independent. She was just abandoning me. I sat beside him, taking his hand in mine. I'm sorry, I know how hard this is. Don't apologize, he replied, squeezing my hand. You did the right thing. What happens now? I've already filed for an emergency restraining order, I said. Sarah thinks it'll go through, especially with the police report and evidence. After that, it's up to you. But I don't want her anywhere near our kids, James replied, his voice steady. I know, I said, but she won't back down easily. Sure enough, in the days that followed, Patria went on a full-scale campaign to paint herself as the victim. She called everyone, claiming I was controlling and harsh, accusing me of turning her own son against her for a trivial mistake. What she didn't expect was Margaret. My neighbor had shared the story with the local moms group, and soon several women came forward with their own accounts of Patria's neglectful behavior, like ignoring allergies at playdates, allowing kids to do dangerous things when babysitting, and making inappropriate comments about overprotective parents. The stories piled up. James's sister also called, crying as she admitted she had stopped letting Patria watch her kids years ago after a similar incident. I should have warned you, she said, but Mom is really good at making you feel like you're overreacting. Then Patria made her biggest mistake. She posted a long rant online about how modern parents were too soft, bragging about how she left James alone all the time as a child and he turned out fine. Screenshot this, Sarah said when I called her. It's proof of a pattern. The judge will want to see it. By the end of the week, we had our emergency restraining order. Patria was legally prohibited from coming within 100 feet of our home or the kids' schools. When she was served the papers, she showed up at our house, screaming about grandparents' rights. I recorded her entire meltdown using the security cameras, adding it to our growing collection of evidence. James watched from the window, his face stern. I always wondered why I remembered being alone so much as a kid, he said quietly. I thought I was just independent, strong. I took his hand. You are strong, strong enough to break the cycle. We had won the first battle, but we both knew the war wasn't over. Patria wasn't used to facing consequences, but she was about to learn that when it came to our children, we were ready to fight. 3 weeks after the wedding debacle, Patria made her final, desperate attempt to regain control. I was at work when my phone started buzzing with messages from other parents at Emma's preschool. Your MIL just tried to pick up Emma. She was screaming about her rights when the school refused. I quickly called the school, and the director confirmed that Patria had shown up during pickup, demanding to take Emma. When they presented the restraining order, she caused such a scene that they had to call the police. Emma's fine, the director assured me, but you should know, your MIL was filming everything on her phone, saying she'd expose how we were all conspiring against her. Sure enough, an hour later, Patria posted a heavily edited video on social media. She claimed she was being kept away from her grandkids, conveniently leaving out her threats to the school staff. I'm being denied access to my precious grandchildren, she wrote. Share this if you believe grandparents deserve rights. But her plan backfired. The school had security footage showing Patria trying to force her way into the building. She had violated the restraining order, and we had exactly what we needed to make it permanent. She's finished, Sarah said after I forwarded the school footage. The judge won't take kindly to this. But there's more, she continued. I did some digging after you mentioned James's childhood. There are old police reports about Patria leaving him alone as a child. His father tried to use them in the divorce, but she manipulated James into saying he was mature enough to be left alone. I felt sick. He was just a child. She manipulated him, Sarah confirmed, and now she's shown she hasn't changed. I'm filing for the permanent order tomorrow. That evening, as James and I tucked the kids into bed, Emma asked a question that broke my heart. Daddy, was I bad? Is that why Grandma left us alone? James pulled her into his arms. No, sweetie, you were never bad. Grandma made a terrible choice, and that's why she can't see you right now, but it wasn't your fault. After the kids were asleep, we sat in the living room, flipping through old photos. James had found pictures of himself at ages 7, 8, 9, always alone in an empty house. I thought I was so grown up, he said quietly. She told me I was her special boy, so responsible. I never realized. My phone buzzed. Another message from Patria, sent through a relative since we had blocked her number. You've ruined everything. I raised James to be strong, but you've made him weak. Your children will grow up soft and useless because of you. James read the message over my shoulder, and something inside him snapped. Without saying a word, he grabbed his phone and started typing. Moments later, my phone buzzed with a notification, a public post from James on social media. To clear up the recent drama, my mother left my 3- and 4-year-old children alone for hours to attend a wedding. When confronted, she admitted to doing the same to me as a child. But that wasn't independence, it was neglect. The cycle stops here. My children deserve better. The response was swift. Patria's victim narrative collapsed as James's post spread, and more people came forward with stories, exposing decades of her behavior. The final hearing for the permanent restraining order was almost anticlimactic. With Patria's social media posts, the school incident, and the old police reports, the judge didn't hesitate to make the order permanent. Your Honor, Patria pleaded one last time. I just love my grandchildren. Everything I did was out of love. Mrs. Henderson, the judge replied firmly. Love doesn't leave toddlers alone. Love doesn't break court orders. Love doesn't try to abduct children from school. You've shown a dangerous pattern of behavior. The order stood. As we walked out of the courthouse, James took my hand. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For protecting our children, for helping me see the truth, for being strong enough to stand up to her when I couldn't. That evening, we had a family movie night, with Emma and Lucas snuggled safely between us. I knew we had made the right decision. They would grow up knowing their boundaries mattered, their safety was priority number one, and their parents would always protect them. Patria still tries to contact us through different relatives or fake social media accounts, but her power over our family is gone. She showed us exactly who she was when she abandoned our children. We saw it clearly, and we made sure she could never do it again. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Stay strong.